go. Hey, everybody, it's Joseph Pasek, and welcome to the Fired Up. We have a special announcement. But first, let me tell you, this is an all-star panel. Of course, we got the broadcasting legend, Stormin Norman Rumack, and we're going to do something that Norm loves. He loves to talk about wrestling. We got the famous, should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, the referees. When are referees going to be in the Hall of Fame? That's Jimmy Korderas. We're good friends. And we got, some may know him as Donnie something or other. Some may know him as Donnie DaSilva now. Big Daddy Donnie. How tall are you, Donnie?
I think I'm shrinking because I'm getting older, but I'm still holding in at about 6'7".
6'7". It shouldn't be in wrestling. Should have been going to basketball. But anyways,
I played basketball.
That's right. So I mentioned we have a major announcement, and Norm's really excited about this because I never told him anything about it. Donnie, you want to?
He's really excited about something he has no idea what's going on.
Exactly. It's better like that. Donnie, do you want to tell everybody what that announcement is?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll be the one to let the cat out of the bag. So Jimmy Korderas and I, for the last, 10 months or so, have been hosting a show. We were broadcasting on TSN. Now we're broadcasting independently. The show is called Huge Pop. It's a professional wrestling radio show hosted by two people who combined have more than 60 years of history working in the professional wrestling industry. And it's a very unique, one-of-a-kind show. We have, award-winning interviews each and every week with major stars from the world of professional wrestling. So the show is a lot of fun. It gets great response from our audience online. And we have been talking to Joe and talking to the Fired Up Network, and Huge Pop is now going to be available on the Fired Up Network, and we're really excited about it.
Norm, give them a huge pop for that.
There you go.
It was a golf clap more than a huge pop. That's okay.
That's huge, right? So that's it. Jimmy, of course, you've been a referee for, I don't want to say how many years and all that make you older, but and you've been on TV, you've been doing radio and all that. Was there an adjustment from being a referee to now sort of co-hosting a radio TV show?
Absolutely. I mean, in professional wrestling, the referee is kind of anonymous, stays in the background. You're there to help the talent tell their story without being the story. So I didn't have to be a focal point. Like, people didn't really listen to me other than the talent in the ring. Now, people who tune into the show have to listen to me. And one thing I do like to do that I found out is I like to ramble, especially about wrestling. I tend to go on rants every once in a while, and I have a lot of fun. Donnie and I have, I think, a great rapport. Donnie is, I'm going to say it right now, I'm not saying this because he's in the room. Donnie is one of the best, not the best interviewers out there. I mean, his style is fantastic. And I try to add a little bit of whatever it is I add, and Donnie can help you with that. But the adjustment period took a little while. I had a little help from an old friend, Arda Ocal, who helped me transition over into broadcasting. And ever since then, you can't shut me up.
All right, yeah, Jimmy had the soft transition, right? Because he spent years on Sportsnet hosting Aftermath, which was like the post Monday Night Raw talk show that he hosted with a variety of people over the years. So this is not Jimmy's first foray into broadcasting, but certainly it's the one where he has the most direct input. And yeah, he's not lying when he says that those referee tendencies of hiding in the background are still there. Because every now and then I'm like, come on, Jim, just let them know what you're thinking, right? Like, let it. And he does. And Jim is so good at that. He's being humble in terms of how much he brings to the table, but Jim is such an integral part of everything that we do.
So I mentioned, and you mentioned it, that Donnie's like I said, Hall of Famer and everything like that. But another Hall of Famer is right here, Stormin Norman. Do you have any advice for a great referee, Jim Korderas? And Donnie, you know what I mean. He's a Hall of Famer. You started with Norm, right, Don?
Well,
he started with Spider.
I started
with Spider Jones.
That's right. At the Fan 590, I was a young call screener and a producer. I worked with Spider, and then I started working with Norm. And And it was oh my God, it feels like a lifetime ago. It is a lifetime ago. It was so long ago.
Yeah, it was. It was.
I was working.
Do I have any advice? These guys don't need my advice. They're doing fine. What kind of advice can I give them?
You could go in the ring, man. You got a referee there. You got an announcer there. You got me. You know, come on. You could go in the ring. Jimmy, do you have any advice for him while he steps in the ring at age 700? Who's just celebrated his birthday? Can you believe this? I'm going to say it, Norm. Can you believe this guy is 70 years old?
That's incredible. Well, I'm going to give Norm the same advice Bruno Sammartino gave me that I didn't listen to many years ago when I asked him, when he asked me if I wanted advice from him. And I'm thinking, this is a living legend, Bruno Sammartino. He's going to give me this great advice, he said. So I said, yes, sir. What is that advice? He says, get out. And I've said, pardon me, get out, because this business gets in your blood. It'll never leave you. And he's right. He's right.
Yeah. I thought
almost 40 years later, I'm still here.
Yeah. I thought I was done with the wrestling business years and years ago. And then, a couple of years ago, I got pulled back in, started running shows again, live wrestling events. Now I'm one of the senior producers and coaches at Super Kicked Pro Wrestling in Toronto. And all of that sort of like reignited my fire for the industry. And I said, hey, Jimmy, what do you say we do this show together? And it's been a lot of fun. And for anyone who maybe is a little bit more of a casual fan of the industry, or maybe not even a fan of the industry, I'll tell you this. We're not sitting there going, well, who do you think's going to win and what's going to happen? And what do you think? Like, it's not that level. It's a much more intelligent take on the performance art aspect of it, as well as understanding the mechanics that go into the presentation of professional wrestling, and really taking a look at the business side of it as well. We do a lot of stuff that's extremely high level that fans tend to find really fascinating. So, if you haven't already checked it out, I urge you to do so.
Number one, Jimmy, the prices for WWE tickets, the only one in this panel is Norm Rumack could afford it, like $5,000 a seat or whatever. Okay, that's number one. Number two, and sorry, Norm doesn't watch wrestling or whatever, but Dynamite starts off great and goes downhill, and then at the end, I don't know what Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné are doing there. I don't know if Tony Storm is going after every lady to kiss them or whatever. What's going on in AEW here?
For me, AEW, every time they hit a good note, like they've been struggling lately with attendance figures and that sort of, and viewership. But this recent Dynamite, I thought started off, like you said, bang, with the great Hangman Page and Swerve and Will Ospreay promo segment, setting up their big match with Mox at All In. And I thought, oh, great, we're off to a great start. Here we go. They're finally capitalizing, coming off a pay-per-view, which their pay-per-views get rave reviews. And then after that, they went into normal mode, doing a 100-meter dash in a STR gym, trying to just cram as much stuff into that hour. They have 2 hours. Take your time, tell your stories. And then they got to that segment, like you said, with Mercedes and Tony Storm. And it just felt like everybody was playing a part as opposed to feeling authentic like they did in the first segment with Hangman. Hangman comes off feeling authentic. Tony Storm, okay, I understand she's playing a character and it's getting over with the audience. Mercedes just feels like, I don't know. And together, there was no chemistry. It was almost like they were pausing and waiting for each other's cues to go, to take their little jabs at each other. It just didn't connect. It didn't feel like it was smooth.
All right. So I'm going to ask Donnie. And Norm, if you want to jump in, if you have any questions, I promise you, Norm, we'll ask Donnie and Jimmy when the Maple Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup, probably 2086. But if you want to jump in, you could ask any questions. But Donnie, and me and you go way back. We've been doing it for 35 years and everything like that. Give me, in your eyes right now, 2-3 wrestlers, men, ladies, who are the future of wrestling. Could be WWE, could be AEW, could be NWA. By the way, Aaron Stevens doing an amazing job. Jimmy, I don't know if you've seen it, doing an amazing job. They should just do cinematic episodes with this guy. He's doing an amazing job. But Donnie, go ahead.
It's funny you asked me that, Joe. We didn't plan this out, but on this week's episode of Huge Pop, Jimmy and I got into a conversation in our roundtable along with our producer, Lincoln Allen. We got into a conversation about who are those under the radar type people that are not being looked at by fans right now as future stars that we think could become future stars, right? Because a lot of people are going to look at names like Braun Breaker, Obafemi, those types of people as the ones that are going to break through into the main event picture, and certainly they're poised to do so. But we were looking at those under the radar ones that no one's talking about, guys like Miles Bourne, Tavion Heights, Anthony Bowens, those types of people that I think have a tremendous amount of upside and a really bright future. But yeah, it's crazy right now that the industry, you mentioned the ticket prices, the industry right now is bigger than it's ever been, which is insane to think about. You mentioned the ticket prices. The average ticket price to this year's Super Bowl was $6,000. Front row tickets to Money in the Bank, which is, what is that, Jim, in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Next week, actually.
Next week. So Money in the Bank's next week. Front row tickets to Money in the Bank, $7,000. And that is not one of their prime events. That is a B-level event. So it's pretty crazy that a B-level event right now is pulling ticket dollars in the same ballpark as the Super Bowl.
And
He's a big Swiftie fan like Norm, all right? So that's it. Okay. So, but yeah, I can't believe, we're heading into WrestleMania 42, and like you mentioned, $7,000 for a B-level show. What's going to be the ticket price for WrestleMania 42? Put it that way, because they moved it. I don't know if you guys know, but they moved it to Vegas, or sort of to Vegas, because they haven't announced it.
No.
And for me, and I don't know if you guys talked about it, you can check it up now on the Fired Up Network. I'm sure you're going to be about this, but what are your thoughts on The Rock coming out in February announcing New Orleans, and then now Vegas, and nobody's talking about The Rock or whatever? So, Jimmy, is there a little bit, I'll use a wrestling term, a little bit of heat within the WWE circles between The Rock, Triple H, or Khan, or like what's going on backstage there?
I had a definitive answer for you, but there does seem to be a little bit of friction back there, stemming back from many, many years ago between The Rock and Triple H. They have had conflict in the past, and I don't think much a Rock out and went into business for himself and announced the New Orleans WrestleMania for WrestleMania 42 premature, because he did announce it prior to the upcoming WrestleMania 41. That being said, do I like the fact that they switched it like that after? I'm not a big fan of that, but at the same time, I understand from a business standpoint, they made record revenue in Las Vegas this past year.
Yeah.
As far as gate revenue, merchandising revenue, all the other events that had going on throughout the city. So I understand why they would want to make that kind of like a destination city. So from a business standpoint, I get it. From a personal standpoint, there's some underlying reason why that happened. I wish there's more, I think.
Yeah, and it's going to come out in the next little while, but yeah, the business ethics part of it, announcing the venue, because now the way it is, and Joe, you probably already know this, so I'll say this for Norm's benefit and for your audience, the way that the WWE events are now is they no longer contact venues and say, we'd like to run WrestleMania at your venue. These cities are bidding on events like the Olympics bid, like the cities bid for the Olympics. And they're throwing dollars at the WWE saying, please bring your traveling circus to our city because we know what it does to the economy. So yeah, it's unfortunate for New Orleans. They are being gifted a couple of other pay-per-views to make up for WrestleMania. We'll see what happens. It hasn't officially been announced that it's going to be Las Vegas, but that's the hot rumor.
All right, Norm, since you've been patient, go ahead. Ask, since we're talking sports entertainment, go ahead. Ask anything you want to know on sports, entertainment, anything like that. Go ahead, Norm.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions, but I've got 5 minutes before I got to split because I got to go to work soon. But just wanted to get your thoughts on what could be an all-time great Stanley Cup final. To me, the Florida Panthers are the Millennium's version of the Philadelphia Flyers of the mid-'70s, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, 74, 75. They know how to be dirty in a sneaky but smart way.
Mm-hmm.
They can play any game you want, either skill or toughness. They can score in bunches. When they get great goalkeeping, they're almost unbeatable from Bobrovsky. And Matthew Tkachuk is one of he's not the only one. Tkachuk, Bennett, all those guys are supremely gifted at intimidating other players and other teams. So I think I hope it's Edmonton for a Canadian perspective in the finals. But either way, even if Dallas does mount a comeback, but either way, having the Panthers in there, I think, is great because they are all their players are the players that fans love to hate. But
right.
the thing is, you'd love to have any one of them on your team, right? It's like you hate them when they're playing for Florida, but any Leaf fan would take Bennett or Tkachuk in a heartbeat, in less than a heartbeat, or any of those other guys on that team. So I think that we're looking, see if you guys agree, at a potentially, I hope it's a rematch, because that would be a heck of a rematch, since it went to 7 games last year with Edmonton.
Right.
So if it's a rematch, I think we're in for a real treat in the Stanley Cup Finals.
No, I tend to agree with that. I'll throw another name out there, Marchand. The Leafs would love to have him as well, as much as hated by the Leaf Nation. But you hit the nail on the head, Norm. I think they are so balanced in different ways. Like you said, they're sold, they're tough, they're sneaky when they need to be, and like you said, very reminiscent of the Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies. They win the cups with the same formula, and it's kind of like old school in a new school environment. People tend to gravitate towards skill. They like to set. But at the same time, if do you want to see pretty passing, or do you want to see Stanley Cup and championships? And I think Florida has that formula down right now, and I'm looking forward to, like you said, hopefully an Edmonton Florida rematch. I have to root Canadian team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that happen as well. I'm personally pulling for Edmonton, number one, because they've got a real wagon of a team. Oh my God, they are just so talented and so skilled. But you're right, Florida does strike the fear of God into teams. But I do have a special rooting interest on Edmonton. Years and years and years ago, it feels like a million years ago, I got to know Corey Perry a little bit, and I can't even believe he's still playing. I think he's 77 years old, but I'm a huge fan of his, and I would love to see them win it. Florida is just so tough, man. They are just so tough, but I would love to see Edmonton and Florida. I'd love to see Edmonton pull it out. But I actually want to ask Norm a question, if that's okay. Norm, I'm curious to know, if you had a time machine, would you trade Wendell Clark for Sergei Fedorov?
Well,
I had to field a lot of those calls, Norm, when I was your call screener, with these pissed off people going, "What the hell is Rumack smoking?"
Yeah, truth of the matter is, even Wendell would have made that trade if he was the general manager. So I think all the Leaf players got a good laugh out of that, including Wendell. So, but yeah, if I was being objective, no, I would take Sergei Fedorov. But Wendell was a different kind of a beast. He could fight, he could score, he could hit. You know, he ticked all the boxes, and you know he was he bled blue and white. So he was a special kind. You know, played most of his career with Toronto. At least toward, until the tail end, right? But yeah, if you have 10 Wendell Clarks on your team, you're in good shape. But good luck getting 10 Wendell Clarks, right? Or Dougie Gilmore, guys like that. They were lucky to have those guys, and that's why they made 2 Final Fours with that squad in 92 and or 93 and 94.
Yeah.
So those were special kind of players. But yeah, I'd probably have to make that trade. But everybody, including the guys in Detroit, got a good laugh out of that too. So I had a lot of fun throwing that stuff out there, or I'm thinking about who's a better quarterback, Troy Aikman or Dan Marino. I got a lot of mileage out of that.
All right. I got one final question for Jimmy. Jimmy, is your team the Tennessee Titans?
Yes, I am a Tennessee Titans fan. It stems back from Houston Oilers days when they had Dan Pastorini, Billy White Shoes Johnson, and in my mind, one of the greatest running backs ever. They never talk about Earl Campbell, who you couldn't bring down. The guy was a beast. He was fast. He was nimble for a guy that big too. Anyway,
we have a question from I named Travis Henry from Baltimore. He wants to know what are your thoughts of the new Nashville, Tennessee stadium, and how is the Tennessee Titans going to do this year?
It's going to be interesting. They drafted number 1. They got Cam. It's going to be. They got a quarterback that they could build a future around. They just got to build a team around him now. Protect him. You got the start is there. I'm optimistic about moving forward this year, especially after last year's double. But with the new stadium, if I want to bring back to wrestling, that stadium is going to be state of the art, and it'll probably house a WrestleMania coming in the future as well.
100%.
SummerSlam's going to do it first, 2028. Put it that way. That's what.
Oh, okay.
That's what. All right. So here we'll close it off with football. Here, I'm going to ask you. We're going to start a couple months now with the NFL season. I know it's early, but I'll get Donnie's take. What's your Super Bowl prediction? Because Norm knows mine. So, and I'll tell you guys. But Donnie, give me your Super Bowl take.
See, I'm so bad at doing predictions and all that because I'm such a homer for the teams I love that I just, Well,
acknowledge them. Come on. You like that. Acknowledge them.
Yeah. As long as the San Francisco 49ers are better than last year, then the season is good for me. Okay. Because I've been a Niners fan since I was 12 years old and I'm sticking by them no matter what. I don't know, man. I think the NFL is such an interesting league, right? Because the way that the NFL is, you can be terrible one year and you can be absolutely gangbusters the next year. Like the NFL is such an interesting league, unlike any other of the major professional leagues. And that's just the nature of their economics and the nature of their structure, the way that teams move guys around and can cut guys without penalty. It is a different beast when it comes to trying to predict. And to be honest with you, Joe, I haven't looked too deeply into who I like going all the way this year, but I'm going to be a homer and say, let's go Niners.
All right. But Jimmy, NFL needs referees. I think you should make the
right
from wrestling referee. The wrestling referees better than the referees they got there now. As a Buffalo Bills fan, you could say that, but go ahead. Who's your?
But I agree with you because the referees in the NFL have the benefit of instant replay. They get to, they have challenge flags and that sort of thing. So take advantage of it. And even when they look at the replay, a lot of times they get it wrong. Yep. It's like being a weatherman, so, what I'd like to see is I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch from this year's Super Bowl. And finally, because they are our neighbors right across the river, finally get it done. And our producer on my other podcast that I do, he's a big homer for the Buffalo Bill, RJ. Shout out to him. I'd like to see him do it for him before he has a coronary.
Because he said that, Don, I'm going to take him away and he's going to do my shows now, okay? Norm, you get the final word. Give me your Super Bowl pick. Give me your Stanley Cup pick. Give me your World Cup 2026 pick. Think about ticket prices for that. In Toronto, tickets are going to be $10,000 to see Saudi Arabia play. All right, go ahead, Norm.
All right, well, I'm going to go with a fantasy matchup. I hope it works out just because I think it would It would be an all-time rating success if Buffalo played Detroit in the Super Bowl.
Nobody wins then.
What's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Buffalo and Detroit. And just to lower Joe's blood pressure, I'll pick Buffalo to win it finally.
Are you saying I need lower
those are two markets. Those are two markets that deserve a champion. Long-suffering, loyal fans. Agreed. Detroit worse off than Buffalo. At least Buffalo made it to those 4 Super Bowls, and they've had a good playoff team for the last decade. So, yeah, it would be great to see. I think even fans of other cities would be drawn to it because they kind of like, if it isn't going to be my team, I'd like to see Buffalo or Detroit finally win something for their fans, right? I think there's kind of like an understanding. Probably Cleveland fans could relate to that a lot, but Cleveland isn't going to any Super Bowl anytime soon. So I better watch what I say. Watch them have a good year next year. But no, I would love to see Buffalo and Detroit. So just for the heck of it, I'll pick that with Buffalo finally winning for their long-suffering fans like Joe Pasek.
And it's funny, Joe. It's funny, Norm, because the NFL is the one major sport where none of the fans really complain or whine when you get 2 small market teams in the final because of their television deal, right? The way that all teams are getting equal distribution, and you're as aware of the Detroit Lions as you are of the Dallas Cowboys, right? So because of that, no one really cries. Whereas in the NBA, fans are losing their minds over Pacers versus Thunder, 2 very small market teams. Looks like they're going to be in the NBA finals, and people are like, well, this is going to suck. It's going to be boring. It's going to be fantastic ball. It's just 2 teams that you don't know anything about because you didn't watch them all year. But yeah, I like that pick. I like Detroit and Buffalo. They both deserve it.
And first of all,
I like that pick better than sorry to jump in here, but the only reason I like that pick better than hoping for a rematch from last year's is we won't have to see, and I mentioned her earlier, shots of Taylor Swift 47 times during the Super Bowl.
Why? What's wrong with Taylor? Leave her alone.
I don't have a problem with her, but it's the NFL final. It's Super Bowl. Let's concentrate on the game.
If you were producing that broadcast, you'd put her on even more. Don't lie.
Well, of course, if I'm producing it, I have to.
All right.
Listen, Joe and Norm, I mentioned at the start, like one of the things I do aside from this show, aside from Huge Pop, I'm a producer and I'm a coach down at the wrestling school for Super Kick Pro Wrestling. We have shows once a month. There's a show coming up Friday, May 30th. There's going to be another show coming up next month. I'm extending an open invitation to both of you as my guests. Should you wish to come down to Queen Street West in downtown Toronto, I promise you, Norm, even you who doesn't care for this stuff, you will have the time of your life. I promise.
Hold on, Donnie. Hold on. All right, I'm going to bring out Norm, but you got to promise me. You got to put him in the ring. He's got to take.
No. I'm not making those promises.
A DDT, everything like that. He tells me he's a kickboxing. He did kickboxing in 1920. All right, this is all I hear. It's 2025. All I hear is kickboxing. And who did you do kickboxing with, Norm?
Well, he did it with
Twin Dragon Kung Fu.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, Twin Dragon. You got to get him involved here. See, now Norm's the best when he's bouncing.
That's okay.
Like this, all right? Go ahead.
That's okay, Joe. I'm perfectly comfortable sitting in a nice, rounded, soft chair and just kicking back and having a drink and a hot dog and let everybody else sweat.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna close it out here again. It's my honor, and this show is amazing. They got a guest. And obviously, Jimmy, a famed referee, should be in the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that later on. With Donnie, a great announcer that, or a great host also. He's been doing just as long as me. Like, I think I started in 1992 or something like that. Donnie, when did you start?
I started in broadcasting when I was still in high school. I was a volunteer at AM 640 with Tarzan Dan and Kenny the Hitman, grabbing their carts and running them up to the studio and then doing their pre-interviews in the green room. The first interview I ever did was Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
And I was losing my mind as a teenage kid. But yeah, that's when I started. I don't remember what year that was, 92, 93, something like that. And then I started at the Fan 590 a couple years later. And then I've been doing my own shows like in the wrestling world since 96. And then it was around 97 that I said, this wrestling stuff is interesting to me, but I don't want to just talk about it. I want to learn the industry from the inside, right? And that's when I started getting involved with the writing, producing, production, all of that stuff. Everything that didn't involve me getting dropped on my head, because I tried that and I hated it.
All right. Again, Huge Pop is going to debut. And I even didn't tell this to Donnie. All weekend, it's going to be a Huge Pop weekend. We're going to play 3-4 episodes of Huge Pop. Look at Jimmy. He's like, wow. All right. We're going to play it on the Fired Up Network. 3-4 shows, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Don't know. It was Norm's idea. Yeah, right. All right. So, and again, I'll ask you this final question. I know Norm wants to know. I know he's got to go in 2 minutes, but I know we're going to come to June. And we talked about WrestleMania. Jimmy, I'm going to ask you first. Book me the main event of WrestleMania.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, the one that's moved?
Yeah,
now?
WrestleMania 42.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
Jimmy, what's the weather going to be like on December 2nd?
No, he wants to know. It's going to be in April. He'll tell me April 13th instead of April 20th. Go ahead.
There's going to be a lot of heat in April of 26. I got a sneaking suspicion we're going to have the final boss make his final appearance.
Interesting.
We'll finally maybe get that Roman versus Rock match that everyone anticipate. Well, some people haven't been anticipating it, but you're talking about a money match. Pro wrestling is all about money. That's money.
All right, Donnie, what do you say?
My God, it's so hard to say right now. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think there's a couple different paths that they can go down. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with something like a Cody Rhodes versus Jey Uso type scenario.
Okay.
Where the two of them have had a falling out in their relationship and Cody has finally embraced the dark side. I don't know, man. It's like the way that the program develops from one week to the next is so insane. So to try and predict from now till, 10, 11 months from now, it's crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's so many different ways they can go.
Norm always stick to change.
I know Norm's main event. Listen, I'm telling you, Norm, it's Tiffy time. Norm loves Tiffy. All right, Norm.
It's time to go to work, actually, Joe. More than it's Tiffy time.
Tiffy's gotta go to work. And Donnie, tell
I gotta get going soon.
Get a hold of you and the show on social media.
Yeah, here on the Fired Up Network.
Find us on the
Monday and Thursday usually.
Yep. That'll work. We're on the Fired Up Network. You can find us on hugepopradio.com, and then that'll give you access to all of our stuff.
And Jimmy, how do you get a hold of you?
Yeah, same. You can find me on all those platforms here on the Fired Up Network, and also on all my social media platforms where I tend to rant a lot.
Yeah, I'm used to that with Norm, and Norm has told me he's going to give her head shirt for both of you guys, right, Norm?
Yeah, if I can ever find them, sure.
We'll do this again. I'm sure to have Huge Pop on the Fired Up Network beginning this weekend. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Good talking to you, fellas.